Got that up. Let's see. Looking good over there. All right. Let me adjust. Oh, there's a button. Neat. Hopefully it's not. Ah. Just setting up a few things right now. Gotta shout. Let people know what's up. Cool. Just had to make sure I got his official playlist in the description. It copied over fine, and so now get to work, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Yesterday, I know we left off with a pretty dank start. It was essentially me goofing up and realizing I was not naming things correctly. Let's see if we can pull up the script. Excuse me. Yeah, so it looked like we were having issues with yeah. So he has override methods for create world text in his utilities, and it's actually pretty good. But the problem was I had modified that. Now, what I should have done is just create another override function because mine was more of a nitpicky feature. It was like essentially when I was creating my grid, I was doing pixels. Pixels were really small. The pixel art was really small. The grid was gigantic, so I had to scale it down. Thus, I added a new variable in here, and it was throwing off everything. So I had to get rid of that, and now everything works. I say that because I think it works. Ah, yes. But anyways, all right. Let's see. I think it's good. Hey, there you go. There you go. Got our grid set up. Now, if I go back over here, I turn off my music. I'm used to just having it while I'm working, but for the stream, maybe not a good idea. Who knows? We'll see. As of right now, it's putting the zeros at the, I guess, creation point of each square. So you're not really seeing them in the center, and everything's kind of off. One of the things I do need some wrapping my mind around is where exactly the point is created. I don't know, like which angle or which corner of the square is what's being generated first. That's, I guess, the 0 point. I don't know. I don't know if that's relevant or not, but we're gonna keep going through it. We'll figure it out. Ah. But all right, let me get this up. This. I have no idea if I'm straying too far from the mic, but that's fine. Let's see here. Okay, got that. Bam. And over here. Oh, I forgot to shoutcast this out. Oops. Oh, here we go. Day 2 devs. Stream. Sorry. I forgot to put this in here. Still doing it. Okay. Cool. Close that out now. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's pick it up. Looks like he's back on the grids. And this is where he was adding.
Alright, this should do it, so we should now be able to see a text object being placed on every grid position. So here on testing, we created 4.2, and let's also pass in the cell size, and let's say 10F. Right, so we should be able to see 4 times 2, so 8 text objects. Let's see. And yep, there it is. We can now visually see the underlying values of our grid.
Yeah,
and all text objects are correctly located with a cell size of 10.
That is.
We can verify that by creating a new empty game object just to see. There it is. So that one is right there, as you can see on 0, 0. Now we move it on the side, and this one is on 10, 0. And this one up here is on 10, 10. Awesome. Alright, so now that we can see the underlying values, let's also add a debug to see the size of each grid position. So over here where we're creating our text objects, let's also do a debug.drawLine. So here we need a start and then endpoint. So for start, let's use get the world position of the current x and y. For the end, let's get the world position of the x and the y plus 1. So we have our left side vertical line. Now let's also make the horizontal line on the bottom. So instead of going to y plus 1, it's x plus 1. Alright, so just like this, we should be able to see a vertical line and a horizontal line. Then let's make it with the color dot white, and let's make it last for, let's say, 100 seconds. Alright, that should do it. Let's test. Alright, here we are, and we actually can't see anything, and the reason for that is because
you didn't turn on gizmos. Found that out the hard way once. I put something in my code completely wrong, spent forever and ever trying to figure it out, and then someone's like, yeah, you debug stuff, you have to turn on gizmo. I was like, huh. This is before I found this tutorial, so yeah, that was fun. Fun. Let's see. So I already have gizmos on. Bam. Let's see. Compiling. Rip. I think that's how it's supposed to be. But yeah. Did I hear an echo? The hell? I heard an echo for a second. That's weird. Anyways, alright. Let's go back and see what's up.
Test. Alright, here we are, and we actually can't see anything, and the reason for that is because we are using debug.drawLine. So when you use that, you need to go all the way up here in order to enable gizmos. And there you go. When you do that, you can now enable, and we can now see the edges of our quadrants. So just like this, you can see the quadrant starts in here.
So it is supposed to show like that.
This is one quadrant, another one, and so on. Now, since we're only printing the left and bottom, that means over here on the top and on the right we don't have anything. So let's add it right at the end. So after we go through our array down here, let's do a horizontal line.
I actually did it the other way.
So we're going to start off at 0 and at the height, and we go towards the width and the height. And then for the vertical line, we start off at width and 0, and we go towards the width and height. Alright, let's...
Alright, I actually didn't hear the explanation of what this part is. Let's see.
Array down here. Let's do a horizontal line. So we're going to start off at 0 and at the height, and we go towards the width and the height. And then for the vertical line, we start off at width and 0, and we go towards the width and height.
Okay, let's just draw the other lines. Makes sense. All right. I could probably just pull that down. Adjust this a bit. 0. I gotta fix this too. Oh, that's in the testing. I should probably just use my headset instead of this mic because it's in an awkward position. We'll see. And what else? Sorry. I get distracted extremely easily. Oh boy. Come over here. I actually got my, as per usual, with my mixed up. Let's bad boy recompile. And I'm actually going to try and I'm gonna mute the mic because I want to adjust it. I don't like the way it's sitting. Every time I move, I feel like I'm talking away from it. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Can you hear me over here? I don't know. But anyways, all right. Just an angle with this thing. Oh, maybe this is worse. I don't know. Testing live, baby. No. All right. Maybe it's better. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, continuing on. There we go. Sweet. Okay. Back to it.
All right, let's test. And if there it is, our nice grid is now fully visible. Awesome. However, you can also see one slight issue, which is that our text objects are right at the origin of each cell. It would be much easier to read if it was right in the middle. So let's do that. Over here, when we create our world test, we're getting the world position, and we can simply offset it by half of our cell size. So we do plus a new vector 3. Let's put it cell size on the x, cell size on the y, and then we multiply it by 0.5f. So this will shift it by half the cell size. Let's see.
Sorry. So what's he doing? Came in here. So we're trying to move the number of the grid. So he came in here, and after this, get world position changed. Oh, okay. Null. Decided to. This is what puts it on the point. And so he's deciding to add vector 3. Cell size. Cell size. Oh, that's interesting. Wait, what? Yeah, I want to hear his explanation on that.
A new vector 3, and we can simply over here, when we create our world test, we're getting the world position, and we can simply offset it by half of our cell size. So we do plus a new vector 3. Let's put it cell size on the x, cell size on the y, and then we multiply it by 0.5f. So this will shift it by...
Okay, I was like, how's just adding it? Multiplying it by half. Makes sense. Interesting. Crap.
By half the cell size. Let's see. And there it is. Awesome. So we can now visually see how our world map is split into various grid zones. Alright, awesome. So now that we can see the underlying values and see our grid, let's make some functions to modify it. So first, let's make a very simple function to set a single value. So in here, let's make a public void. Let's call it setValue. And we're going to receive an int for the x, an int for the y, and then an int for the target value. And now in here, all we do is go into our grid array and set on position xy to be our value. However, here is also where we need to ask ourselves, how should our class deal with invalid values? So what should happen, for example, if we get a negative number? There are various ways to solve that, depending on what you're trying to go for. We can either throw an error or correct it to the closest value or just ignore it. Now, throwing an error would potentially break the game, so we should probably not do that. And if we set the closest value, then our grid map would behave very weirdly on the edges. So in our case, the best course of action is to simply ignore invalid values. So in here, before we set our value, let's make sure that x and y are valid. So we test if x is bigger than or equal to 0. Also make sure the y is also bigger than or equal to 0. And then let's make sure the x is under the width and the y is under our height. With all of those, then we have our valid values.
Okay. Let's chop that up. All right, let's see. Okay, so we're going to come in here. We're going to set this up. I'm going to draw out our values. Void set value. Say if x is greater than or equal to 0 sorry x is less than width. Getting confused. Greater than or equal to 0 and x is less than width. Oh fudge. Y is less than height. Uh. Oh God! Someone's blowing leaves outside. Doom. Just my luck. Anyways, oh, there you go. That's how I do that. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Oh, okay. Sorry for the. If you are catching that blower, hopefully it's not too bad. All right, let's see here. Jesus. Okay, it's not picking up. Thank God. I was like, it's really loud. All right, so if x is greater than or equal to 0, if y is greater than or equal to 0, and x is less than width, and y is less than width, those things are true. I want my grid array. X and y, that's not a comma. Equal value.
And if we receive invalid x and y, we simply ignore it. Alright, so far so good. Now, in order to visually see setting the value, we need to update our world text objects, because in here we are simply creating them on the grid, on the constructor, and we're not updating it. So if we use this, this will not update. So let's deal with that. Let's make a second array just for debug purposes in order to store our debug text objects. So in here, a private, we're going to use a same multi-dimensional array, but in this case of type text mesh. We created just like our underlying array. And here, when we are creating our debug text objects, let's set it on the XY to be that. Alright, so we now have a reference to our debug text objects. Again, these are meant only for debug. So when you go down here and we set the value, let's also update our text object. So we go into the X and Y, and we set the text mesh.text to be on the newly set value. Alright, that should do it. Over here on the constructor, let's test.
So, man, that guy doing God's work out there. So utility, So he just takes this and he puts it into debug text array, y. Delete. And down here, what he does is he grabs this. It says debug text array 2-string. Hold on, I got lost. I have to give the location because the location text for it will say essentially this one. That 2-string. And then we're gonna have to call it up here.
Alright, that should do it. Over here on the constructor, let's test. So let's call set value. And let's try putting the value on the x of 2, y of 1. Let's try putting it something like 56. Alright, so let's see. And if there it is, that one no longer has 0, but rather our newly set value. Awesome. Okay, so now let's...
Filing. I broke something. Honey. Private mesh. Wait, what's it saying? Object reference not set to an instance of an object. grids.ctor int at this just do nani. Something borked. What did I bork? I broke something, guys. Bad news bears what I break. Shit. Alright. Check it. Let's go back in here. Bug text array. Up. What did I do wrong? I set this. Am I supposed to add it here? I kind of feel like I have to be honest. This is a part of the constructor. Oh no. I don't have to. Do I? Let us look.
It's only 6. Alright, so let's see.
Oh, yep. I'm not thinking. Text text array equal new text mesh width and height. Right. Now it should work. Magic. Hey. Huh?
And we set the text mesh.text to be on the newly set value. Alright.
Huh? Confusion. I don't understand. Figure it out. That's not wrong. Value grid text array xy.text equals grid array xy to string. What? How is that wrong? Brought me here. What am I doing wrong?
Alright, that should do it. Over here on the constructor, let's test. So let's call set value. And let's try putting the value on x of 2, y of 1.
What?
Let's try putting it something like 56. Alright, so let's see. And if there it is, that one no longer has 0, but rather our newly set value. Awesome.
Object reference now set to an instance of an object. Grids.set value. And grids 49. Huh?
X and Y, we're going to receive a world position.
Honestly, I have no idea what's happening. What happened this time? It seems so straightforward. Cool. Debug text array equals this. Did. Debug text array equals. Ayya. So my debug text array equals that. I didn't put it in the right. That's why the grid's not being filled out. I love it when I find these things. Pay attention to case or your. I forgot what the term is. Make sure it's in the right block. And we finally have it. Awesome. Oh, I'm making these mistakes. Oh boy. Oh, I need to quit streaming right around lunch. I was really tired at lunch for some reason. All right, let's see. Got that. Let's see what the next one is.
Positions. So let's make a public void. Let's call it set value, just the same, except in here we'll receive a vector 3 for the world position and then int for our value. And now before we made a version to make the get the world position based on a certain x and y, and now we need the opposite. We need a function to get the x and y when given a certain vector 3 for the world position. Now in this function we need to return both the x and the y values. However, functions usually can only return a single value. So we could modify all of our code to work with a struct that owns both the x and y values, or we can simply add out parameters into this function. So in here, let's make this return void, and instead, let's add an out for an int for our x and out int for our y. This way we can return multiple values from a single function. But again, if you wanted, there are many approaches. You could, for example, just make it return a vector2 int, and that would work the same. But let's go with the outs for now. So in here, in order to get our x, all we're going to do is go into the mathf and do a floor to int. And we're going to floor our world position dot x divided by our cell size. So with a cell size of 10, the world position 5 will be on grid 0, and a world position of 15 will be on grid 1. So that's how we calculate it, the x and the exact same thing for the y, and that's our calculation. Right. So we now have a function.
Say, wrap that back.
Will be on grid 1. The world position 5 will be on grid 0, and a world position of 15 will be on grid 1. So that's how we calculate it, the x and the exact same thing for the y. And that's our calculation. Alright, so we now have a function to convert our world position into a grid position. And we also have the previous one to convert grid into world. Awesome.
Ooh, nice. Jesus. Y equals math dot floor to int. Essentially, it's the same thing. Yeah.
So now down here we can simply use that function. So first we define our x and y. Then we call getXY. We pass in the world position. And we give an out for the x and an out for the y. And then we simply call setValue with our converting x, y, and pass in the value. And that's it. Alright, so now let's go into our testing class. And in here, let's test setting a value on our mouse click. So let's do a private void update. And in here, let's test for an input in order to get the mouse button down. Let's test on the left mouse button, so index 0. Now when we click, let's set the value on the grid. So in order to get the world position, again, we can use the codemonkey.utils.
Button down.
In order to get the mouse world position. Again, here is the function in case you want to build it yourself. We just go into the world camera and call screen to world point on the screen position. So that's how we get the mouse world position. And now in here we can now go into our grid. So let's store a reference to the grid, our grid. We construct it on start, and then here we call grid.setValue. Pass in the mouse world position, and then let's pass in a value. Alright, so let's see if we can modify our grid by simply clicking on it. Alright, so here we are. Now, first of all, let's click outside.
You went faster than I was ready. Alright, so we grab the grid, and then from within the class of the grid, we are going to set the value. Put all this in there. Oh, I forgot I named mine grids because I still don't know how he's able to name it grid and still get it to work. Go figure. Why isn't my grids working? I broke something again. Grids does not exist. Oh, I guess it doesn't. Grids. Oh, I'll put that outside.
Simply clicking on it. Alright, so here we are. Now, first of all, let's click outside. And yep, there you go. Clicking outside does absolutely nothing since we decided to ignore invalid values. However, now if I go in here and I click, yep, there you go. We updated our...
Wait a minute. I'm still throwing errors. Yeah, I'm throwing errors left and right. What the hell? No reference. Object not set. Yeah. So we adjusted that. X is greater than or equal to 0, and y is greater than or equal to 0, and x is less than width, and y is less than height. Do this, else do nothing. All right, let's see here. Let's reload it. Still throwing my errors. Don't know why. Looks like I'm still getting them errors.
Or grid. However, clicking. All right. Pass in the mouse wheel position.
Grids. Input down 0. Mouse button down. Set value. 56.
Position, and then let's pass in a value. Alright, so let's see if we can modify our grid by simply clicking on it. Alright, so here we are. Now, first of all, let's click outside. And yep, there you go. Clicking outside does absolutely nothing since we decided to ignore invalid values. However, now if I go in here and I click, yep, there you go. We updated our grid value.
Bro, I'm having a hard time here. Object reference not set to an instance. An update.
Alright, set a value to set value function.
World position out X, out Y, set value X, Y value. World positions are that. Ooh, excuse me. Grid array equals value. Debug text. Text equals the grid array. Whatever number it is to string. Question is why? Oh.
And in, we have our.
Let's see.
Here we go, clicking outside. So here we. Right. So let's see if we can.
What the heck? Oh, I pinned it. I was like, what's happening? Bruh. Might be a short stream. It's only a few short minutes. But I am dog tired. Oh man. Okay, yeah. I should probably go. But I need to finish this verse. Christ, I can't just leave this like this. Input, get mouse button down. 0. I did. What the heck? state. The input mouse down works. This is not set to an instance of an object, but there's it works. So I got all these objects. Okay. Null exception. Object reference not set to an instance. Object reference not set to an instance of an object testing. Grids.set value. Wait a second. And this one's set value. Get XY. It's supposed to do that. Did I forget something?
Start yourself. We just go into the world camera and call screen to world point on the screen position. So that's how we get the mouse world position. And now in here we can now go into our grid. So let's store a reference to the grid, our grid. We construct it on start, and then here we call grid.setValue.
I'm such an idiot sometimes. Yeah, I'm tired. I should have known better than do this. It's getting reinstantiated when I start it, so it's not actually counting the one that's top, counting something else. Oh. Let's see. And there it is. And I no longer throw an error like he said. Oh, man, you really gotta love it. Gotta love it. I couldn't even get through an entire video. Hopefully later or next time I'll be able to go through this whole thing. And I know it's gonna suck. These videos are kind of dry. I mean, coding is pretty dry when it's not fancy and showing things, but you know, whatever. This is the building blocks. These are the episodes that aren't gonna be great, but looking back on it, this is going to be the foundation of what's to come later. And sometimes the skeletons aren't that great to look at or build. But anyways, yeah, thanks for stopping in, folks. I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down now because I'm yawning. I've yawned like 6 times already. Or more, I don't know. But next time I will go over this whole thing, and hopefully we'll be able to move on to something that has a little bit more color to it. But yeah, all right. I'll talk to you folks next time.